Mm.
And like they'll just jump up on you, and it's fun for like a little bit, or like when you cuddle them, it's fun for a little bit. But too big of a dog is just a lot to handle. Like he seems like he's kind of like perfect little pocket
He's
size.
about 20. Oh, he's like 20 some pounds. I mean,
Is that all he
not
is?
even that.
Oh,
He's super small. And I mean, yeah, I mean, he's a big cuddler. He's very, very affectionate. He's very, very chiller.
yeah,
And yeah, I kind of figured he'd be joining me on my lap at least for a little bit of this
yeah.
podcast.
Oh,
So
I would
that
imagine.
made a lot of sense.
So only 20 pounds though.
Yeah, he's very small. Yeah, I think he's even small for just like his breed too. Like not even just
Is it just poodle
he's
or
he's a mini Goldendoodle.
a mini
But
golden?
even mini Goldendoodles are a little bit bigger than he is.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say he's very petite, and
yeah.
it doesn't. I mean, if he's 3 years old, I mean, kind of done
Oh
growing.
yeah, for sure,
You know,
for
like
sure.
Stevie, she just turned 3 on the 6th,
Hmm.
and she's kind of capped out around 50 pounds, which I
Yeah.
can't imagine having like a dog bigger
Now she's a
than
bowling ball.
her. She is. She's a little thumper, but it's like perfect size. But he seems like he'd be kind of fun to like cuddle with too. Very
Yes.
soft.
Oh, he's
You know,
great.
my grandma used to have some poodles that were just the fucking worst. But at least he's a mini golden doodle, but he's got that poodly kind of curl
Yeah.
to it.
Oh yeah, he's got the curls. I mean, these are really tough. Like a lot of like any doodle owners, like I know Meg, like she has to get him like groomed regularly. She has to brush out his coat. Like even having the
Matted up
collar
in
on
the
all the
ears or
time will
something
mat.
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
and she sees people that just like don't ever do it, and like you bring them in to get
Oh,
groomed,
that's
and
gotta be rough.
they're very matted. He's for the most part pretty chill. Like she does a really good job about that. And hello and welcome to the Average Bros Gym Podcast for your fitness hosts with eerily similar names, Kory and Croy. Walk you through fitness, health, and life advice, which seeks to meet you where you are at. No polarizing black and white takes. We have had some of those. No threatening you and telling you the only way to do things. Just genuine advice and good conversation. Welcome to episode number, I believe this is 13. Oh my gosh, cranking them out. We are joined by a special guest, Murph the dog.
Yes.
Murph, he's not going to look at the camera. That's okay. So she's joined by a special guest, Murph the dog. My girlfriend Meg, she is back home right now, and I am taking care of the dog. And we wanted to record a podcast, so here he is, chilling on my lap.
He's very cute.
He is very cute. So for people out there with larger dogs, we've seen like the social media or like the Instagram posts where it's like the dog. Oh, he's sure the beer being opened. And it's like, oh yeah, this dog is a puppy. Like enjoy the puppy cuddles now because they'll grow out of it. And then like I saw a Bernese Mountain Dog, and it was like Instagram post, and it was like when the dog got older, it was just still on top of this guy. And it's like, yeah, it's a 90-pound cuddle dog, lap dog. So
it's like I never know what we did as a species to deserve dogs, but they are just incredible. I mean, we
domesticated them.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly though, that's pretty weird. And though it was like just like these little guys used to be wolves, and now you have just this little 20-pound mini golden doodle chilling in your lap, and you're like, wait a second, what if we go way back down this dude's lineage? Somewhere in there, deep down inside, was just a savage wolf, and now he just wants to kiss and lick your face.
He's kind of he gets a little snarky sometimes, as dogs do, but.
It's always interesting figuring out like the little behaviors of like of dogs. Like what's their like? I got a buddy who's got their dog is just obsessed with tennis balls. Will just 24/7 back and forth bring it to you. Like Stevie, the only thing I can really, I don't even want to say ding her on because it's still adorable, but she's very much a licker. She loves to cuddle, but then all of a sudden she'll start, licking you. She just kind of goes bananas, and it's cute initially, and then there finally gets to be a point where you're like, all right, enough.
He does the same thing, and he's my roommate Ryan is outside right now, and he's like, he hears the noise, and he's like, what's going on? No, yeah, he's a big licker too of faces and just like everything. Like he likes to groom himself, right? So he'll lick his paw, and he's had like some allergy stuff, but he'll lick his paw and he'll just like keep licking and licking and licking and licking and licking. And it's like, okay, Murph, we gotta chill, buddy. We gotta stop. So
he's got some very, and I feel like many dogs do, but just emotive eyes.
Yes,
like he's very like. I don't know. You can see something going on back there. So smart.
That's what Megan talks about. So if you are listening to this one, we actually, so typically for the Spotify episodes and for the Apple Podcasts, I don't know how to change it, but Spotify, I can upload this as a video podcast. And we also are on YouTube as well. So if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you're like, I want to see this dog.
Which you should.
Yes, hop on YouTube. You can check them out. But otherwise, it will be on Spotify video. So I think I'll post that on when I do that. But yeah, y'all. So watching the dog this week, and so if you have a larger dog at home, kind of how do you cuddle with your larger dog?
Big spoon or little spoon?
Yeah, I know.
Like, honestly,
I love him.
well, there's one breed of dog. It's like, I'm trying to think of what it would be, but I mean, they can get up to, what, 150, some odd pounds, at least. I'd have to look up like
Well, Danes are big, but
Danes
they're
are
also
big.
not as thick. They're
No,
thick.
yeah.
They're a little more just taller.
They're like a horse. Like when
Yeah.
I'll take Stevie to a dog park, and there's been a handful of times where we've come across a hand like of Great Danes,
Mhm.
and you see them coming along, and you're like, wow, I could ride that thing.
Well, it's interesting.
Massive.
And they're also like, I don't want to say low energy, but like they're pretty chill.
Yeah, well,
Like they don't need like a ton of exercise.
I've heard they can also be like pretty good apartment dogs, just
Yeah.
for that exact reason. Like
Yeah.
some big cuddlers. Wasn't Scooby Doo was a Great Dane
I
one?
believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? And
What breed of dog was Scooby
I'm
Doo?
almost positive it was a Dane.
I think he was.
Some of those larger breeds, or
Okay.
even some big poodles, those can be
Mhm.
pretty massive too. And there's another one that's
Honestly, like a normal doodle is pretty
they're
massive.
big.
Like their paws
They're
are
big.
huge.
What's the one that it straight up almost looks like a wolf, like Irish wolfhound?
Wolfhound. Yeah.
Yeah,
Those are adorable.
That's an interesting coat that they have, though. It's
Very
that
coarse.
Yeah, they're running through woods or brush or whatnot, so it
Yeah.
doesn't get tangled or something.
Yeah.
It's not as fun to pet, though, to be honest.
Well, so they used to have, and they still have it a little bit. So the Irish Fair over in St. Paul every August, they'll sometimes have like the Dogs of Ireland, or and they'll have like a wolfhound, or they'll have like some other kind of like really short coats, like those really like kind of tough coats. I don't know if that's an adaptation from like the weather. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how water repellent it might be. I'm not sure.
Well, that's an interesting point.
That could be wrong, but that's my estimated guess. So we are not experts in dog coats.
Nope.
Fitness, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
But dog coats is one thing we're not experts in. So
that would be if there was any just like a random event that you could kind of go to. But what is the nice move? What's the dog show?
Westminster.
That would be just for if there was a one-off thing, like probably not something
Yeah.
I would ever go to again. But if I were just to all of a sudden, if someone was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, you want to go to the Westminster golf, or dog show?"
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, I'll happily go. Like, I'm not necessarily going to pay for a ticket, but if someone
Yeah.
had one, I mean, like, oh yeah, you go check that out. That'd be really just an interesting, unique
Well,
experience.
it's cool to watch like the
I know every time they pop up with the winners, I always get sucked into like watching, like, oh, look at this.
Hold on, are you telling me? Yeah.
Like, who's the winner of the Westminster Dog Show, or the like agility courses?
Yeah,
Every now I'll be
those are really
going
cool.
scrolling through a feed and I see some freaking Belgian Malinois, or what's
the collies, right? The border
collie,
collies,
yes,
yeah.
border collies, the Australian Shepherds, where they are just.
Well, maybe not a border collie. Yeah, maybe Australian Shepherd. I think.
I think one and the same. Those are
Okay.
both going to, I think, be very high performing dogs in that event.
Yeah.
But I'll get sucked in watching those for sure. They're fascinating to watch.
They have that at State Fair every year. They have kind of like that. I think it was over by like the lumberjack games as well.
Wait, are you saying at the Minnesota State Fair?
Minnesota State Fair, yes.
No,
the Hawaii State Fair. Have you really not been to the?
No, I'm not. I've been to the. I swear.
Crucify this man.
I've been.
If you're listening and right in the comments, right? Okay, so that's what we gotta do. So in the comments, you can respond to Spotify or YouTube or whatever, but write down the things that Kory needs to do at the State Fair next.
It's going to be eating a lot of whatever, like powdered sugar, covered deep fried corn or something like that. They got such goofy.
They do.
They
have new stuff every year, so it is kind of interesting to kind of test out. But like, you don't have to just like eat everything. Like I go every year and get like 2 or 3 things.
Isn't it? Again, having only gone once, and even as a kid, I didn't like the experience. It was just hot, sticky. I was like, wait, so you just walk around and there's like, I mean, yeah, you're like sweating, like, greasy fried food. And I was like, wait, is that all there is here? Is like, are we just like walking around and it's just like, there's just different vending spots to just eat things?
There's more than this.
Like, and then I know they had some
horses?
like concerts you didn't even know you had. And then you're,
We only went the one time, but it was nice. We went there for like 4 or 5 hours on like a weekday night. It was like the only time we could go.
I think I'd be more inclined for weekday too.
Like, hi, Murph. But we went there and we got these donuts, and like at the end of the night, and they were like, no, people were talking about them like later on, because we went like pretty early, I think, and like the rest of the time And it was like I think people were saying it was like Amish donut, and I was like, I didn't know that was a thing, but it was really good. It was like Krispy Kreme, but I was gonna say holistic Krispy Kreme, but like a natural, like kind of homemade almost like Krispy Kreme. It was really really good. Can't remember the name of the place, but I hope they're there again next year. And if they do, they're probably going to have a bigger truck, because there was like hour wait for that thing, and people were still sitting in line for those.
So I've only ever associated like
The
Amish
Amish?
with like phenomenally great furniture. I feel like you hear that a lot of
Yeah.
times. Like they are just great wood whittlers, or I don't know, they can just make a hell of a good table and chair.
Yeah.
And apparently now I also have to add the best donut makers. Apparently
They also
to
raise
that title.
dogs. That's where
Yeah.
our coworker Doug has gotten his
Oh, no shit.
he's got Norwegian elk hounds, and he's gotten his latest Norwegian elk hound, Caspar, who is now maybe about a couple years old. Got them from Amish family.
Oh, are they well trained?
He can tell you that. I assume. I mean, it's Doug doing most of the training. And yeah, no, I remember, driving back from Wisconsin, kind of like, driving through, rural areas and seeing the horse and buggy kind of like crossing, like, a quarter mile in front of you, right? Whatever that is. So, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know much about the Amish, and I don't want to speak on their culture too much without understanding it. But shout out the Amish for their donuts and their dogs.
But wasn't that like
their woodwork?
I feel like everyone kind of remembers that experience as a kid for the first time you were in some school bus.
Yeah,
and you're like, wait a second, what's this like horse and buggy thing?
I don't remember that because I am from Minneapolis. I'm from a city.
Oh yeah. I'm from okay, so I'm a little bit more rural, but I definitely do remember that. I'm like, what?
Ah, yes, of course. The urban Amish.
Urban.
An odd subsect of Amish
right down
culture.
Main Street.
Yeah.
But I think we went to a Amish farm as one of the field trips that you would go to in elementary or middle school, and you're shown around the area. It was just, as a kid, you're trying to understand or comprehend it a little bit. You're like, oh, wait, what is this place? Like, because it's so vastly different from your experience as a kid, where you're like, oh, wait, yeah, what do you want? You want frozen pizza? Cool, I'll pop that in.
Hell yeah. Oh, wait, what was your go-to frozen pizza when you were a kid? Or now?
Frozen pizza as a kid would be, I think my parents, they always just got like Jack's.
I mean, that's
it was
classic.
like Jack's. It was Jack's or
classic.
Or
Jack's
like
was
Swan,
dope.
the Swan truck. Remember the Swan, Swanee,
yeah.
Swanee truck, or Swan's Man. That's what my mom would always say. Okay. Oh, Swan's Man here. And then I think she would get some frozen pizzas from there too. But yeah, probably like Jack's. What are some of the other classics?
Oh, Red Baron.
Yep.
Red Baron. I mean, you had like, if you were bougie, which like my parents were kind of bougie with their frozen pizza, you had DiGiorno.
Oh, DiGiorno's. DiGiorno's a tier above. Yeah. I'll agree with that for sure.
I will say, yeah, if you had DiGiorno pizza growing up and you're like, I wasn't bougie, you were bougie.
Yeah.
That was a bougie frozen pizza.
When you can get fucking Jack's and it's like, 3 for $5.
Yeah.
Deal.
Oh, God, yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, I'm in.
Jack's was like the frozen pizza equivalent of like Little Caesars.
Yeah, Oh yeah.
But like $5 pizzas back in the day. But Jack's was, but like I didn't appreciate Jack's until I was like in high school / college, and I was like, oh wait, this is lit. Yep. These are great pizzas.
Little Caesars was our go-to spot this one summer, and for many summers as a kid. But like we would go down to the pool, my buddies and I'd be myself, Nick, Ben. It was just kind of the crew. But you'd go swimming at the aquatic center for 2 hours, 3 hours. You run around on your bike, and you're just kids, so you just got some cash from your parents, unless you had like the paper route or whatever that you had some extra ching in your pocket. But Little Caesars, hot and ready pepperoni. There was nothing that beat that. But then if you ordered pizza, our go-to was Pizza Hut.
Pizza?
They were the fastest. They were the fastest.
Did you get the stuffed crust pizza? I was a big stuffed crust guy.
If it was me just having it, I'd maybe be more inclined to do like the stuffed crust thing. But my dad or my mom, not so much. Yeah.
I was a big stuffed crust guy, and then we'd always eat whatever pizza we could at night, and then we just have the rest of it in the morning as breakfast pizza.
I see a day old pizza. There's a lot of things that I think are very tasty and even better the day after. I've never found day old pizza to be better.
So you're not a cold pizza guy?
I'm not really a cold pizza
guy
either. That's just that. Yeah. Never been really a cold pizza. I feel like I'm definitely in the minority on that. I feel a lot of people really enjoy cold pizza or day old pizza.
Yeah.
I think there's a stark contrast between that and when it's fresh out the oven or something.
Well, some people are, there's multiple camps here. Mm-hmm. Some people like leftover pizza, heat it up, back up. Mm. So that could be splitting the difference between you guys. Yeah. So you're not so far off.
True.
Some people like the cold pizza cold, like the next day pizza, leftover pizza, but they want it kept cold. They want to just eat it
straight out of the fridge. Yep.
I've done both. I've done both. I would say, like if I had to choose, gun in my head, I don't know that this scenario
dire situation
ever exists in the world. But in this hypothetical scenario,
I'm sure it's happened once. Some dude have flipped out like, fucking pineapple on pizza? Say it again.
Some crazy guy. Say it again. Pineapple on pizza. That was in, we just finished watching Stranger Things season 4.
Is that the last one?
That's the most recent one. There's one more to go. They're still filming it currently. The kids are now like 23 years old. And yeah, they had a scene where there was pineapple on pizza. And like I've never been one of those pineapple on pizza guys. I'm not saying it's blasphemous. I don't care what you put on your pizza, to be quite frank.
No.
But it's never been for me. Yeah. But I've also been very late to the game for fruit. I didn't eat a blueberry. Oh. Fun fact. I didn't eat a blueberry until I was 21 years old.
No shit.
I'm not lying. I didn't. My parents are lovely people. They probably at one point were just like, this motherfucker is the pickiest eater in the world. Mm-hmm. They tried and tried and tried, and I was still like a chicken patty, chicken nugget, like ham sandwich, string cheese, hot Cheetos, Welch's grape kind of guy. And they tried and tried. You
basically just listed your entire diet
that for that
entire period of your life right there. You had that so dialed down.
Yeah. And I had some other weird stuff too, but we won't get into that. But that was it. Like they were like, we've tried apples I liked, and that was from like the only fruit I had growing up was apples. Yeah. And now I like a lot of different things.
Yep.
Hi, buddy.
When it comes, so fruit, blueberries, apples. My dad was a big Granny Smith guy.
Oh yeah.
But then Honey Crisp, that one's kind of like the
Honey Crisp is like the Minnesota go-to.
It's hard to beat. It's really hard to beat. Just the nature's candy. Oh, fruit. It's so good.
Well, Kory, we're gonna branch off of fruit really quick. We have some Q&A. I want to talk a little bit about some other stuff, but I'm gonna bring this topic to you right now. What is your favorite part of a rotisserie chicken? Does it have to be like this favorite part of the first thing that you think of?
Just the meat is just
the
good,
meat.
Just like good protein. Like, all right, yeah, just rotisserie chicken. Cool. That's a good like meal or two.
So it's not the skin, is what you're saying?
I mean, all right, if you're talking that, then
are you going drummy? Are you going thigh? Are you going breast? Are you going wing? What's your poison?
Oh God, when it comes to that, I'm not too picky. I'd probably go with drummy just because there's less bone to fucking deal with. Mm-hmm, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just in and out, one shot versus like the wing. Then all of a sudden you got like two little bones there or something.
Yeah, you got to kind of like, you got to get the side and you break it off and you have this little tiny thing at the end, the tip, the wing tip.
Yep. The chicken breast is really good, but then it depends on like who cooks it because it's a little bit dry.
What was the best rotisserie chicken place or like chicken place you had growing up?
Oh, my dad's grill. We never.
Ooh, I mean, we never. Like my dad's grill.
Because my brother was, speaking of picky eaters, my brother and my dad are very picky. They're just like the meat, potatoes. They, they're the when you go
good old country boys.
When you go to a restaurant, they're like, yeah, you can keep the rabbit food. If they ordered a burger, it's like keep the rabbit food. I.e., don't bring lettuce, tomato, onion. I don't want none of that on there. It's just I want beef patty and bun. Yeah. And that's it. Like that's my brother and my dad.
So you went the opposite direction from that.
Oh yeah, I'm much more diverse in my portfolio of food. In terms of what I'll, want to dabble in or try.
Yeah.
But my brother, he was such a picky eater that if it came to summertime and it was like, hey, what do you guys want to grill? I was always more inclined to like the burgers and the steaks. I loved that. My brother, he would be more of the love pork chops and love chicken, which they were always just kind of dry to me. I didn't like the flavor profile of those as much. Love them now, but he would be always chicken. So you would always kind of fight over with the family, like, oh, who got the dark meat? So you get like the thighs and the wings. My mom always liked a little bit more of the chicken breast, but there was some about, yeah, if it was the chicken my dad would have up on the grill, 100%, I'm trying to get that dark meat for sure.
If we had any vegetarian or vegan listeners, they fucking tuned the fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Murphy, where's he going? Okay, I'm gonna get you on the bed here.
Have you ever done that straight, just like vegetarian or vegan? I think I did that for maybe like a half a day, and then I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, nope. I went to the store. I got everything. I took all the meat out. This was just like on a fucking whim about 3 years ago, and went and got like lentils. I was like, all right, what the hell am I going to cook?
I think there's ways to do it, but like you gotta, it's trial and error, because it's like the first time you have it, you're like, you're very new to it. You're kind of, I think you gotta do it like in spurts. Or you might have to do it like, I'm going to do it for 1 week, and then I'm going to do it for 2 weeks, and then for 3 weeks.
You got to ease into it. You're like, I would have to start with like, hey, how about you have just like a vegetable every meal of your day?
Sure.
That's where my start would be. It is like, I'm very pebbly. And I'm like, some people are already eating like 800 grams of like,
stay on the bed, buddy.
Veggies all day. And I'm like, nope, I'm not close to that.
You want to, what is this mother?
He wants to explore.
What is this child doing? Oh, he's hiding it. He's hiding it.
Oh, burying his bone.
Yeah, he likes to do that.
Burying his bone. Well, don't we all?
I can't see it. Don't know where he's going with it.
He's just tucking it away.
I know Megan listens to this. I'm sure she's gonna have a really great time right now in this. What he's just hiding is fucking.
All right, yeah, Megan, if you are listening to this, your dog is absolutely adorable.
He just hid
so
this.
Sweet. And again, the eyes. It's just the eyes.
So he just hid his cheese. I don't know where it is.
Somewhere tucked behind you.
Oh, it's right there. Yeah. Murph, get your cheese.
What would be your go-to if it was from the chicken thing? You went to like
a yeah. Thing. No, honestly, like as I've gotten older, I've had a grown appreciation for thighs. I do like some drummies a lot. I think so. Growing up, so if you're from the Minneapolis area, I feel like I don't know, you grew up here, or you know this place. Over South Side, I think it was 38th and something. Art Song, like so, it used to be Shorty and Wags, or it used to be Art Songs. I know Shorty and Wags. Chicken place. This place was the best wings I've ever had in my life. We used to have it growing up, like every other week, or maybe like 3 weeks or so. Like we didn't have it too often, but had enough. This place would never pass a health inspection, but they made the best wings. And just something about that seasoning, and it was just so good. And just, oh my God, I love it. Shorty and Wags / Art Songs, like. Anybody from Minneapolis will know that.
That's your go-to.
That was my go-to. Spot. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Growing up, it was great. And then they ended up closing at some point. I think they closed probably when I was around in high school, maybe a little bit earlier. Probably health violation, but maybe it was something else. But yeah, no, they were amazing. Love those wings. So I mean, like I don't know. I'm a drummy guy. Anything really, to be honest.
Ours in Winona was Zaza's. Okay. And it was the spot. It was kind of the college spot. It was right across from Winona State. And always like a really good bar scene. And my buddies and I would always go there on Wing Wednesday, because you'd always be able to get a really good deal. And
Wing Wednesday, it's alliteration. It works.
Yeah. And it was just a tiny little space, like stacked to the gills with every table that you could possibly fit into the place, a couple pool tables in back and all the neon lights, everything else. And it was just a cool spot to be in. Really, all the college girls worked there as the waitresses, so being,
so you and you were young. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mid-20s. I mean, like, oh yeah. Why would you not? It's going to be great. You're going to get great wings. It's great music. And then you get, a cute waitress or something like that that's waiting on you. So we would always go there on Wing Wednesdays. And I had my buddy Andy. One summer we were, if you want to talk about like how food can be just such an enticing offer at some points, and when you're a young 20-something, you're just helping out your buddy. My buddy Andy had a cattle farm that he worked on like with his dad, and then
not surprised.
Going up into the winter, they would have all sorts of odd projects and things. And one of the things I would always do is cut, stack, and put wood in their like second farmhouse. And so just for some extra change, I would go out there for a couple weekends, help him cut, stack, all the wood. And you'd have to bring over piles of wood from his dad would load up a tractor, dump them off in front of the farmhouse. And then you'd had to throw the wood through a fucking maybe 2-foot by 3-foot little window at the base of the house that would go into the basement. So you just fucking huck wood down. You're crouching on your knees into the basement. Then you'd have to go after you got a whole pile in there, walk down, stack it, right? All down there. And we're talking from floor to ceiling about 8 feet, 9 feet high. And so just long, laborious, hot, sticky, dirty work.
And
And
you don't like the state fair?
and
Come on.
hey, well, I was getting paid halfway decent, and then my buddy Andy wrote me in one day. He was like, "Hey, I tell you what, not only will I pay you to come out today because they had an extra, couple loads that they needed to get in. They're like, not only will I pay you today because I had some other shit that I was gonna go do, and he was like, I'll pay you today, but I'll also give you 20 wings down at Zaza's. I was like, that was enough of an incentive for me to like, all right, fuck it, yeah, I'll come back out. I'm getting out there for
That's
some
the
wings.
payment
Hell
right
yeah,
there.
hell yeah, I'll get some wings. They're so good.
Well, let's transition to this a little bit. That sounds delicious, and now I really want some fucking wings. So, Kory, wings, wing meat contains what we call protein, which is a macronutrient, along with fats and along with carbohydrates. You can take protein as a supplement in addition to your whole foods, right? There's protein powder, things like that too. We did got a question that from a good friend of mine, and they were wondering kind of like about supplementation and kind of what we take or what would we recommend we take, kind of like what about supplementation is productive for those who have like fitness and health and wellness goals. What is what is like good to take, what's not as useful to take. And I have my own thoughts on this, but protein is a supplement. So let's talk about protein. And you can still touch on wings too. If I know you want to talk about wings more.
Okay, so protein, yeah, you can get that. Ideally, primarily, you're getting it from more the bioavailability of it through animal product, primarily with the amino acid profile that protein will then have.
Kory, what's an amino acid?
So, all right, all right. So, if we're just talking about protein, you can get in a variety of sources. I will say you should probably talk to your like health provider first to see whatever your you know uh if you have any intolerances or what your goals are. Talk to a fitness and health professional, and then we can kind of guide you on the right
That's
track.
what we are.
So if we're talking about your protein intake, yeah, you can supplement. You're going to be able to get like a vegan source of protein that you're going to get proteins through your, again, animal product is going to be the most bioavailable.
There's like tempeh, there's tofu, there's
yeah, you can get those. You can get those options. And based upon how much protein intake that you would need, which is the area that most people fall short in, a good rule of thumb is about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And then depending upon what fitness or physique or performance goals that you might have, you can alter that around a little bit. Eat a variety of protein sources. Get it from your, if you're talking about animal product, you can talk about your beef, steak, chicken, your variety of fish like salmon, leaner cuts that you can look into. But yeah, as Croy said, you can get it from, you're going to get protein from your tofu. You can get protein in your oatmeal. You get protein in eggs. And protein is going to be one of the most essential macronutrients. I would say that's going to be the one that most people also oftentimes underconsume and undereat.
Yeah, I always go for I think like a really good baseline for a lot of people that don't track it is like 100 grams per day.
Oh, at least.
Now, yeah, and like that's going to be lower for some folk, but if you don't track it at all, that's a really easy number to shoot for. I'm just saying, okay, cool. Like it's easier to remember. I'm not saying it's easy to accomplish for some people, but essentially that's like 3 meals plus like a shake per day, essentially, right? If that's all you have, that's like that's a easy target to hit. Protein is important because it is the kind of building block of muscle. Essentially, like protein helps with quicker recovery. It helps with muscle building, right? It's not fuel. Essentially, your body doesn't necessarily use protein as a fuel source, but it does help to repair muscle tissue, right? It's also going to help you feel more satiated, things like that nature. And it's also going to be, because it is not used for body fat, it is not used for fuel. You're not like storing protein necessarily. Now, timing doesn't really matter. There are some people that will say it's the anabolic window, 60 minutes after your workout. There have been a lot of studies that have shown that like protein that you can digest more than 25, 30 grams at a time. Previously it was thought like, oh yeah, you can only digest X amount of protein at a time, so you shouldn't have any more than this because otherwise it gets wasted. There have been some more recent studies. Brad Schoenfeld is a great resource for this.
Lane Norton
is amazing. God, I love Lane Norton so much.
Yeah, he just had one talking about this exact same thing where I think they loaded like protein up like in almost like 100 grams at one meal that you would have, and kind of found that same, it's not necessarily about your window in which that you're consuming that protein, but all in all, Andy Galpin, he's another great source for this as well. They all kind of coincide on, as long as you're getting adequate protein intake throughout your day as a whole, that's ultimately what's going to matter the most.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't really matter when you get it, but it matters is that you get it. Right. So protein is a supplement that works. Murph, what do you think? Oh my God.
I feel like too, where people struggle with that, talking about protein, because if they're like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough, like how in the world that you hear that all the time. And I especially do. It's like, how are you supposed to eat like 150 grams of protein? And for some people, like they're looking at their body weight. And when I shoot them that number, like, hey, yeah, you're going to be aiming for about 1 gram per pound of body weight, if not even more, if you're wanting to try to operate within a caloric deficit to drop weight, because again, all the things that you just said, it's more, the thermic effect of food is going to be higher, so your body is going to have to burn more fuel to be able to burn that off and properly digest it. It's going to be more satiating. All of these different things. I mean, hell, it even takes longer to chew, versus you get to like some easily digestible,
tough ass chicken.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Really like going to town on it.
You go to fucking town on a 16-ounce steak, and you're going to be there for a while, and you're going to be full as fuck. And so that's another great great way too. It's like, all right, rather than doing like ground meat for like ground protein sources, like if you're over consuming, you can do that. But anyways, or do the inverse of that. If you're struggling to get protein intake, ground up your meat, because it's easier to like actually ingest. You don't have to spend as much time physically chewing, which can be taxing and tiring, but also front load the fuck out of your protein intake in the morning. So many people, they go through their morning is like, all right, they're having a fucking juice, a sugary coffee, a bagel, some like, just garbage almost for a lot of people. And then all of a sudden at lunch or dinner, they're like, how am I supposed to have 100 grams of protein?
Are garbage?
I'm just saying, maybe not your croissant, but like whatever it is, like let's add some protein to it. Like get some
croissant and something else.
Like I get these chicken sausage links at Trader Joe's, and like each one of those is like 19 grams of protein. I'm like, have some of that with like some turkey bacon, some eggs.
We all love little TJs.
Oh, Trader Joe's is the shit. It's so fun to be in there. Yeah, I feel like front loading your protein or planning that out in whatever way, shape, or form that you need to, that is going to be huge for you to be able to.
But I think you make a really good point, because like traditional breakfast food, quote unquote, is very carbohydrate centered.
Very much.
Which is totally fine.
Carbohydrates
but like
sugar.
Yeah, and if you want, like if you're having trouble, like, man, I'm just not getting enough protein, it's probably coming in that morning, right? Because otherwise, like, because we think of protein as like, I think sometimes we think of it as like really like the chicken and the fish and things like that, and like how often you're making that for breakfast. But like you said, if you have like the turkey bacon, the turkey sauce, whatever, like you eat chicken sausage, whatever you're front loading in the morning, the eggs especially. One whole egg is usually about 6 grams, so it's not a lot. But hey, if you're shooting for 100, 120, that can make a big difference.
It's like nature's multivitamin. So it's so good. Like, I mean, not just
egg
for
whites
protein,
as well.
Egg whites, but like front load that in the morning. If you need to, you can supplement via a shake of some sort as well. Have that with or like a meal replacement shake that you're going to be getting some good sources of carbohydrate and protein and fats in there as well. Like there's a multitude of different ways to be able to integrate that in. It might take a little bit of an adjustment, for you. Obviously, it's going to within your lifestyle, but if it's something that you are really wanting to work for, you're going to be able to make that change. Man, I mean, it's like fucking protein, man. It's so good.
You know what I love for breakfast, though? So shout out Andrew and Ellen. Ellen, of course, we've had on the podcast for. Shout Andrew and Ellen. Because like I started working with them, a while back. And man, ever since that, I just started getting eating a lot of toast.
Oh.
Good toast with a good jam.
What is it, like Dave's Killer Bread or something?
So much. Nah, just straight up white bread toast, but it's just so good, and it's like quick fuel. Because I usually work out, like if I work out on a day that I work or work on a weekday, I'm usually doing it kind of right before I go into work or like right after I wake up. So that quick carbohydrates are really good for me.
Yeah,
and just to have some energy in the gym and like the jam. Oh man, the fucking jam, dude.
That's another question. I guess like, should you eat like before you work out? It's like I feel like you got to find what works best for your body. A lot of times I don't even really like having a lot. Prior, I don't want to be sitting on anything heavy, especially. I guess you could get some like easily digestible.
No beer.
carb or something in there. Banana,
Yeah,
applesauce.
that's what I usually say. It's like banana or like toast.
Yeah, something light.
Or something,
Something
like
light.
some sort of bread, some sort of like
Yep. So you get some good
fruit.
carbs in there. It's going to just be able to process quickly.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so good. Like if pre-workout's not your jam, I feel like, hey, I don't want to take caffeine before I work out. Blah blah blah. Like everybody's caffeine tolerance is different. Everybody's so like that will bring us. Actually, I want to circle back to that, but
caffeine.
Oh hell yeah! But yeah, I mean, like even like if you have those quick carbs, yes, you're not going to get like a big like rush of energy like you would from caffeine, but you will be sustained throughout your workout. You're like, oh, well, I can like keep going. You know what I mean? Like you'll notice that difference for carbohydrates. So protein, awesome, yes, great. That is a good supplement. Like if you are struggling to get enough in via whole foods, like Kory mentioned, that is a time to pick up a supplement. Look for something that is third-party tested. They'll put it on their label, like smack dab on there. Whey protein is a dairy derivative, or that's the wrong word, derived from dairy. So if that is something, or it's like you're lactose intolerant, it might not be best for you. Sometimes people that have whey, it's like doesn't really react to their system too much, but that is the most common, most prevalent form of protein. Casein protein is
slower digesting.
Exactly.
Yep. Evening, typically a lot of time.
Oh man, I remember when I first got casein back in college. I was like, hell yeah, I'm fucking jacked.
It was like a milkshake. It tasted like a milkshake.
That was so thick. It's so thick.
Especially if you do have some fruit.
Murph.
Or fruit. Fucking.
He does his little thing.
Yeah.
Did you hear his?
Yeah, I did. And then also the protein sources that you get, like if you're not a big red meat person, then also you could potentially look at supplementing some like amino acids or creatine that are generally going to be found a lot within.
We'll touch on creatine.
You know, that'll be good too. If you're just like, oh yeah, I only ever eat white meat.
Yeah.
So many different supplements that you can go down, but protein, creatine, fish oil,
protein. So protein is legit,
D, especially for us pale ass Minnesotans.
God, we're so pale. Protein. So yes, protein is number one. That's going to help your muscle growth. That's going to help everything. Yeah. So protein. Did you hit his cheese?
Yeah, I hit it. What was that cheese? I thought it was a bone.
Well, it's his cheese bone.
Cheese bone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So protein. Yes. Take protein. Next one, we touched on caffeine. So caffeine is a thing. It's a performance enhancement. It's a stimulant essentially, right? So caffeine kind of like, helps kind of keep you focused, keep you awake. A lot of pre-workouts will have some sort of caffeine. Now,
it can also be like serve as an appetite suppressant.
Absolutely. I will say, so like in a cup of coffee, it's probably like what, 30 to 60 grams.
How big's the
typically?
mug?
How much espresso shots are you getting?
Yeah.
Okay, when I first talked about, I used to say espresso with an X, but it's espresso with an S.
Yes.
I'm dumb. Espresso. So caffeine is a performance enhancer. It's a stimulant, right? So like you're more focused. You maybe get a little more reps, a little more energized. Keep in mind that everybody metabolizes caffeine differently. It is based on not genetics. I mean that too, but it's based on like biological factors. Everybody's a little bit different, right? So that's why you have some people that can't drink caffeine after noon because they'll be awake all night, and some people that like rail pre-workout at 5:30 p.m. and like if their workout and they're fine, right?
And then caffeine also acting as like an inhibitor to like your perceived fatigue as well. So from a performance enhancing standpoint, but yeah,
absolutely. So I mean, no, that's Kory. That's great. And then also there is like a high end of caffeine.
Yeah.
Assess tolerance first. I mean, if you take pre-workout, a lot of it does have caffeine, and it can range in volume.
Generally, you're going to see at least like probably 150 is on the low end that I'll see for any sort of like pre-workout. That's very low. Yeah. But otherwise, I feel like generally for a pre-workout and also like an energy drink that you'd get at a gas station or something like that, it's going to be around 200 milligrams of caffeine. On the higher end, you'll start to see like 250 and 3.
Or over 300
or more, which is insane because I think the daily recommended allowance is around 400. And you're talking that energy drink with, again, maybe you had the espresso in the morning or you had your mug of coffee in the morning. That's actually one thing I've been a little bit more aware of is potentially looking to reduce or limit. Not that my caffeine intake I think is at.
Is that coffee in your mug right now?
Yeah, is like excessive because all I've had right now is I had like 200 milligrams within my pre-workout before my trail run earlier.
Sounds like you got a problem.
Nope, 200 milligrams in my pre-workout before I got my trail running earlier, and now I got my favorite. I got a shit ton of gift cards for Christmas, Starbucks, and I've been just hooked on. Anytime I go there, I'll get a nitro cold brew, and yeah, so sipping back on this thing. But caffeine intake, there's something like you get up. There was a guy that was telling me at the gym the other day that in a period of his life he was having, and I I feel as though I should trust him. I have no reason to doubt him. He seems like a stand-up guy, but the
No,
amount
he's
of
fucking
caffeine that he
lying.
was taking, I was like, how did you not die? How did you not have a heart attack? Like it makes no, like he was having 10, 8 to 10 monster or energy drinks a day. And again, I gave you out those rough parameters as to the caffeine content of one can
We
being
talked
about
about this
200.
gentleman
Yeah.
earlier in the podcast, I
20,
believe.
so it's like 20,000. It's like, what the fuck? How did you not just explode? Almost makes no sense.
So yeah, because a monster is roughly like 150, 160 milligrams of caffeine. If you have like a standard monster, right, energy drink, like the 16-ounce, blah blah blah. So you have what 10 of those? I mean, that's 1,600 right there.
At least, yeah.
God damn,
which is insane.
Did I do math correctly? Is that math? Is that mathing?
Yeah, that was mathing.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, the caffeine. I've been curious as to wanting to potentially. I don't know if I could commit to it because I'm a huge coffee fan, and obviously I like the benefits.
Drink your coffee, buddy.
Well, it's like I like the benefits also of pre-workout.
Yeah.
Before getting into lifts and with the intensity that I do work out at, I do feel as though I would be missing something a little bit. For all the people that are out there like, "Oh, fucking mental toughness, man." I'm like, I get that too, but I mean, at the same time,
if there are those people, I'm like, shut the fuck up.
But even doing a caffeine, I was about to say withdrawal.
Caffeine cleanse.
But yeah, for like, all right, hey, 2 weeks, just cut it out, let your body reset.
Symptoms.
Exactly. Yeah, you might get the headaches, or you might get those things
depending on how much you're taking. Absolutely.
Yep. And I've thought about it. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on it because I've heard that for people that have done those caffeine hiatuses for 2, 3, 4 weeks, even further, they come back and they have that first cup of caffeine and it hits them like a fucking truck.
Yeah.
And that would be interesting to experience, but maybe at a later date.
Sure. And when we say 400 milligrams, that is like the very highest end before you experience like legitimate side effects.
Yeah.
Now, you can experience side effects at lower doses if you're not accustomed to it. Like if you don't drink any caffeine, all of a sudden you have like a 200 milligram like Ghost energy drink. Like yeah, you're probably gonna be fucking like itching itching the face is more of a niacin thing, but yeah, you're gonna be pretty lit. You know what I mean? Or like something. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you get a lot of like, oh my gosh, I feel like my heart went.
Yeah, and like I would honestly, if you're doing any sort of like higher intensity cardiovascular exercise, I would not even recommend pre-workout. Like maybe like a very low dose, have a scoop, whatever. Maybe coffee, but like for cardiovascular, your heart's already gonna be beating fast enough. You probably don't need caffeine on top of that. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was 18 and I was doing this. I think it was called like Spartan training or whatever it was. It was like a boot camp, and it was run by this personal trainer, Tony, out of the Y at the time. And shout out Tony if he's listening to this. My mom is listening. She knows Tony, so she'll say something. But shout out Tony, really great guy. But yeah, we did like a Spartan training where it was like a big circuit class, and it was interval training. And it was like I took NO Explode from BSN at the time beforehand, and I was like, I am gonna fucking die. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, if you're doing high intensity cardiovascular exercise, just be aware of how much caffeine you're ingesting as opposed to like how much you typically have. If you're one coffee a day person, and all of a sudden like I'm gonna take pre-workout before like a cardiovascular exercise, I would advise against it. And maybe have like another cup of coffee, or maybe have like half a scoop or something like that.
Or to have that onset of that caffeine within your system about like 30 minutes prior to your workout, fill up your blender bottle or whatever, and just slowly start sipping on it over the course of that time period. Rather than just fucking hammering it like a shot, that's going to hit you pretty damn quick versus, all right, 30 minutes out, just a easy little sipper as you slowly start getting ready. That'll kind of be a little bit of a easier slip and slide into that realm.
So caffeine works. Again, look at dosage, look at kind of what you've been used to. There are time and place for it. But works, performance enhancer, fatigue reducer, all the fun things, right? So caffeine.
Smelling salts.
Hey, smelling salts only if you're a powerlifter.
Have you ever done them?
No.
No?
No, I have not.
I did them twice.
How'd that go for you?
It was interesting. it was
shit!
Right? Yeah, you can see how that wakes people up from being knocked out.
If you watch like powerlifting videos or like weightlifting, Olympic lifting videos, sometimes they have it in the background. So that brings us to my next one. You mentioned this earlier, creatine. Now, if you want a full, really scientific, oh yes, his little pauses. If you want a full, like detailed breakdown of creatine and its effects on your system, I really encourage you, and I'll see if I can link this in the show notes. But there's a Barbell Medicine podcast episode. If your Barbell Medicine is very, very scientific, that's why I like them a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're not into that, like into fitness as much as we are, you're probably going to be like, what the fuck? But really good, really good knowledge. But Dr. Feigenbaum on the Barbell Medicine podcast did a creatine breakdown, which was very, very informational. So if you want a little bit more of a detailed breakdown, go check that out. But effectively, creatine is something that is made naturally in your body.
Yep.
You can supplement with it. You can also get it in like red meat you mentioned.
Yeah, if you eat about, I think it's about like if you were to have about a pound of red meat, I think it's about, you maybe get like 2 grams of creatine.
Did you listen to this podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so creatine supplementation, the most common recommended dose is 5 grams additionally in supplementation per day, right?
Yep.
So creatine fuels what we call the creatine phosphate system, which is used for like strength and power. Endurance training, there's a little bit less kind of studies on it. It can, I think, maybe help in terms of like perceived exertion, kind of like you were mentioning with caffeine. But for the most part, it's shown to increase like strength and power output in lifters, athletes, whatsoever, right? So effectively, creatine works by like saturating your muscle with this compound. And then you are able to maybe like lift a little bit heavier or like push yourself a little bit harder with this additional power, like output, like power source, right? So creatine works. It's one of the most widely studied in terms of this supplement out there, and like there's a couple different kinds of creatine. I think micronized creatine is typically the way to go, or creatine monohydrate. It's listed as creatine, micronized creatine, or Creapure, which Creapure is a brand, but it is micronized creatine. And again, this is from the Barbell Medicine podcast and Dr. Feigenbaum. But yeah, it can help for strength and power output. It is sometimes people will say that it like causes water retention. Not necessarily. Maybe if you're loading. So some people will do like a loading phase, quote unquote, of like 20 grams a day.
For about 4 to 5 days. That's funny.
Right.
Yep. I'm going
You're
through
reading through it right away.
Yep.
But Dr. Feigenbaum recommends that unless you're like need an extra power output for like a meet or something like that, like this week, like a loading phase is typically pretty inconsequential or like not needed for the vast majority of people.
Yep.
And there have been some studies that have shown that like elevated levels of creatine have been remain in your system for up to like 30 days. So like the idea is you kind of take it like every day, usually with like a pre-workout or like a post-workout or whatever. But if you miss a day or two, it's not going to be the end of the world for you. So.
And creatine, like you said, has been studied for decades, is one of the most just researched and also one of the most cost-efficient supplements out there as well.
Cheap,
like, so if there's going to be a best bang for your buck that's going to work for the vast majority of the population, creatine is going to be a phenomenal one to supplement with. And there's so many different benefits of it as well too. So you get these supplements that it's not just like, oh, this one supplement just does this one thing. Like it branches off into a multitude of areas. Like we're talking about sports performance and muscle, but there's also been shown to have like the cognitive benefits of creatine as well. So for the other podcast, you said like Barbell Medicine, I know I've listened to my handful as well from Andy Galpin or Huberman. There's a guy as well that I follow and have his book. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but James, and the last name is hard. I think we've mentioned him before. Antonio. I butchered that, but all right, pronounce it. What do you got?
De Nicola Antonio.
De Nicola
Antonio.
Sounds
very Italian.
Yeah, he's another one. Phenomenal like source, and again, coming from 2 gentlemen who have been within the health and fitness industry for quite some time, there is a lot of information out there, and even for us, and I'll speak for myself, I'll continuously, like I'm looking right now for anybody that's just listening on my phone, because I will continuously save posts and bookmark, flag different areas that I'll see just various information like this, just as consistent reminders for myself. Like, creatine as well, if we're talking about other various benefits, as you said, drives water into that muscle, increase the need for like electrolytes. And it's just constant little things that, oh yeah, that's right. So if I take this, but then I also have to be cognizant of how it's going to impact my now electrolyte balance within my muscle tissue. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's kind of interesting. So I'll constantly just be like saving little tidbits like this. But yeah, creatine, take it at least 5 grams a day. Creatine, take it.
Creatine.
Help your recovery. Yep.
Help your strength and power output. It's safe. Now, there haven't been enough. So what Feigenbaum mentioned in the podcast that I really liked a lot is that there haven't been enough studies as far as like okay, if you're pregnant, right, or like taking it like in certain circumstances. And he was kind of saying that there haven't been enough studies to really determine. He would just say hard pass because he was saying that like it also like strength and power output probably shouldn't be your primary focus when you are pregnant. But so there are definitely circumstances where it's like you wouldn't necessarily want to supplement with it, but it doesn't really, but just because we don't have the research to back it up or like understand like if there's any sort of like negative health benefits to it. But as far as like the research goes, it's been pretty clear all the way through. So creatine, take it. It's yours.
It's yours.
It's yours.
When did you start taking creatine?
I've been like off and on, but like so actually a lot of pre-workouts will have some sort of creatine. They might have like 2 to 3 grams typically.
Yeah.
So you might, if you want to hit that 5, you might have to supplement on top of that.
Yep.
They have it more essentially better, at least from what I've seen. And
you're saying it like over the 5 milligrams, like,
right? Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
you don't
like,
oh,
if I take 30, I'm even more jacked. Like that's not necessarily how it works. But yeah, no, I started doing pre-workout in high school. I was like, cause we had a friend, a guy in high school. He was like pretty skinny. His name was Chris Lowe. He went to South High, and he was pretty skinny. And all of a sudden, he started working out a lot, and he started taking like the NO Explode. And that was why I started taking it in the first place. But it was like, oh man, like he's like really jacked, and so we all kind of thought it was like because of this like pre-workout, not really because he just like was working out more. You know what I mean?
I'm so happy you said like
but that was when I started taking it. Was high school, yeah.
Because that's such an important thing to think about too. As we're talking a little bit here on supplements, it's not one supplement that is all of a sudden going to be the, again, life-changing, body-altering fucking thing. Like, oh yeah, just started taking fish oil and just started taking my magnesium and creatine all, and like, oh, 2 weeks later, your body doesn't look any different. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, do you like feel any different? I don't know. Yeah. Are you like jotting down your, in your journal all throughout the day, like how your energy levels are or how you feel about that? It's like, this is going to be a longer time for you to be able to recognize or potentially even see those benefits or perceive them. It's so whatever supplement that it might be, you start taking your protein, you start actually hitting your 1 gram per pound of body weight a day, you incorporate your creatine and you start taking, caffeine. Like, all right, cool. Do that for quite some period of time, document, journals, record, see how your like lifts have been going, energy throughout the day. Then maybe after 2-3 months, check to see, are you like making your way towards your goals? Is your body composition changing? Are your energy levels better? You might have to come off of a supplement as well. See how your body responds to it now that you don't have that in the system too. It's always just a nice little trial and error, incorporating in for a long enough period of time to see if there's any actual like tangible change.
You got to put in the work first and foremost. Like if you're not putting in the work, you're not going to see a change with regardless of
it's like
what
the consistency too. It's
Absolutely.
like, yeah, did you take your creatine, but did you take it every day? Or was it like, oh yeah, I only took it like once or twice? Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't take.
Even people that use steroids, which we're not going to promote this podcast, and they do work, but we're not going to promote that. But even people that use that, means you have to actually like lift weights. You have to like you still have to put in the effort in the gym and outside of the gym. And supplementation like the creatine, the caffeine, whatever. I mean, that's going to be like 10 to 5% of your actual overall fitness gains. But taking that in conjunction with what you're doing outside of, in the gym and in the studio or wherever you're doing your exercise routine, like that will give you a little bit extra boost. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like the idea of like the 80-20 rule that everybody always hears and refers to when it comes to their nutritional approach. They're like, yeah, well, 80 or 85 or 90, like it's within that range, right? That most people talk about it, the 80-20 rule, the 90-10 rule, right? 80 to 90% of the time you're eating really, really clean. And then you can have the other area where you're kind of like, a little sloughed off.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many times when it comes to like a health and fitness, and wanting to achieve various physical gains, as you will, people fucking flip it and then they don't do the 80%, which is actually like putting in the time, consistency, dedication, discipline to your fucking training program and getting your ass into the gym or going out for your run or whatever it is that you wanted to do. then they immediately just want to hop right onto the, oh yeah, well, I already started like taking creatine. I started taking fish oil, and I'm like doing my protein. It's like, yeah, but your ass hasn't even been in the fucking gym. Like, you got to get that part first. Like, get that first, and then you can start looking into the weeds here as to, all right, these little various performance enhancers and everything else. But
Sure.
so much of that is just going to come down to like actually doing, again, the 80% that needs
Yeah.
doing before you start
So
getting
if,
off of
if
them.
I was someone who, let's say, Kory, you're talking to a member or a client right now who has, maybe I've historically struggled with consistency, and I'll do my 2 weeks like really hard, or 3 weeks really hard, and I'll kind of fall off, and then I'll have 2 weeks that I'm gone. And like, and it's just, I don't have the discipline. Let's say I never grew up playing sports where it's like you were at practice every week, or like, things like that. So if you're saying, okay, well, cool, supplementation is great, but like, how would you get me to focus on just the basics of getting to the gym and getting a consistent routine?
There was,
And I'm very sensitive.
well, you have to. You're the same eyes as Murph there, but Murph's eyes are all
Oh,
passed out
I
right
love
now.
him so much.
What's funny? I just had a member come in for a athlete check-in. Won't say her name. She is a phenomenal lady, and her husband are notorious for just going on these stints. They'll come in for 4 or 5 days a week. They're super proud of the effort that they have shown in that week, and then all of a sudden, poof, they're gone for 3 months. I'm like, where did y'all go? Like, and then it's just this vicious cycle that they, find themselves in all the time. And there's so many stories like this that of members all throughout our history. Like, you could name so many like this right off the top of your head as well. We all had them. If you work in the industry as a coach long enough, you got a fucking Rolodex of people like this that immediately come to mind. And it's really frustrating sometimes when you sit across them. You're like, and it's also frustrating for them too.
Mm,
To be in that conversation, be sitting down across the table from them again. Like, we've had this conversation before about the consistency and like, hey, we just need to get started here. Like, you're slipping in the mud. We're trying not to necessarily, like, meeting them where they're at. What does their health and fitness goal look like? Is that we go back to the SMART goals way back when? What's attainable for them? What's a realistic expectation for them in their life? Is it specific enough? Is it measurable? All those things. And to a degree, at some point, you can have all the different answers that you would want to as a coach, and it's still going to come down to like that person's willingness and discipline to actually keep their part within it. Like, hey, we're going to set this goal for you. I'm trying to help you and assisting you in making this a little bit of a clearer picture and something that is attainable for you. But at the end of the day, the only person that can actually get that done is you.
mm,
And that's a really hard thing. You can bring that goal down. Like, we might chat about like, all we need to do is like get you to the gym every day this week. I just said two, not even workout, but like, let's start instilling and creating the habit of you getting to the gym. I think I've mentioned this here before, which I love even that goal, just instilling the habit of, okay, I wake up, I do this thing, I get to the gym. And then once you're there, cool, we can start building upon it, but just get the habit down. And for some people, it takes a while for that to actually become a reality. And they'll
mm.
go through this slip and slide again and again and again and again. And I think as a coach, it becomes really challenging at times to, you get that email, hey coach, I'm ready to come back. This is the
Yeah.
time. And you just got to sit there and, you know, do your best to be open and be, responsive to where they're at, and try to also set a realistic goal for them to
Mm,
achieve. And then at some points at the end of the day too, you can have that really earnest and candid conversation. Be like, you're not showing up for yourself. Like,
mm,
you have to do this. We've had this conversation before. Like, it gets really hard to navigate. Yeah, and you can go through so many of those little outlets. Like, okay, cool. Well, that's maybe just a one off, or But how many times can you just pat somebody on the back before it's like, all right, what are you going to do here?
mm,
Are we making this reality? Are we actually going to have that like stern conversation? Are you going to like look yourself in the eye in the mirror every day when you're like, okay, yeah, you didn't show up for yourself again. Like, let's just get one day, stay consistent with it. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's a really challenging conversation. Like, you as a coach, they're relying upon you. They're not necessarily achieving their health and fitness goals.
mhm.
You've tried a variety of different smart goals, or let's just a walking plan. And they're still just not doing it.
Yeah, I think it's about having an honest conversation. I think there's a way to have these really honest conversations without necessarily blaming or shaming. And I think that like people that aren't doing this, they know that they're not doing it.
Oh yeah.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? They know that like, and a part of it, I think sometimes is like the shame spiral of, if you miss a week of exercise or you miss a week of whatever, it's really easy to like, oh man, I feel bad. And then that shame prevents them from confronting you or coming
Mm-hmm.
in to you because they're going to say, well, Kory knows I haven't been here for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Kory knows I haven't been here for 2 weeks. And it's hard to deal with those feelings. Generally, it's very difficult to deal with that feeling of letting someone down or shame, because then you feel bad about yourself too. And then you feel like you're letting yourself down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, it's that spiral of like, I realize that I haven't done this, and it's just easier to keep not doing it because you never have to face that feeling of like, oh, this person knows. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I don't know. There's a lot of ways to go about it. I think being a coach is like, getting a hold of them. A lot of it is tracking them down and just saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what are your priorities? Because you know what? If their priority, like, because I think sometimes people go too hard and then they go off. If
Yeah.
you can do like twice a week, that's better than 0 times a week.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If you can do like 5 walks a week, I'd rather have you do 5 walks a week than one hard exercise and then you stop the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
week, right? So it's like it's this idea of consistency over intensity. We don't need to always go as hard as possible. If you're walking 7 days a week and you're hitting like 7,000 steps, fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Go you, you know? So I think sometimes it's expectations versus reality. Like this person thinks that to be successful, they need to work out 5 days a week. And maybe that's just not who they are. Maybe they're not at that level yet.
It's hard to accept that too for some
Yeah.
people. They in their mind they want to be that person that they see in the magazine or on TV that works out 5 days a week and just has all their shit together from a
Hmm.
health and fitness standpoint. It's like, but that might not be you.
Dude, I'm
Like,
not that
do
person.
you want to be that person? Do
Generally,
you know
I'm
what it
not.
takes to be that person? That's a lot of shit.
Like it's interesting because I use this example sometimes. Like, so when I was in college, and obviously it goes by responsibilities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, we realize that we are not like we don't have the most responsibilities. A lot of you listening have like families and kids and things like that too. Like we completely realize that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I don't think that should be on that. I think for me, it's like I'm not that person who's going to get in 5 to 6 days a week. I'm just not,
Mm-hmm.
because there are days that I open and I'm at work at 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
and I'm like, I am tired. And on those days, there are times I go to the gym and I sit in the parking lot for 20 minutes and I'm like, I could just leave right now. But I go in and I do what I can. And a lot of the time that is not high intensity. That is not, full body. That's like I'm hitting back for
Yeah.
45 minutes and I'm peacing out. Right. Or there was a span of time for a long time that um, Andrew, who I mentioned earlier, was doing my programming, or Ellen was doing my programming. I was like, I've got 45 minutes before I go to work. I work from noon to 9 or whatever it is. I got 45 minutes, and that is still better than nothing, and that is still showing up for yourself. And so I think people that have that eternal struggle of like, I'm coming in 5 days a week, and then none, and then this and that, like you're not like you're doing. If you come in one time a week and you're walking the other days or like whatever, like we just need to find what your baseline is for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because the going back and forth, the whiplash of going back and forth is actually harming you more than coming in twice a week would for consistent effort, because and then you can always add from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people have that fear of it, and I think people say that if they come in 5 days a week or work out six, whatever that is, they need to go as hard as possible. And that's not true at all. Like you can do, you know, 4 days of this intensity and 2 days of this intensity. Even elite CrossFitters, they don't do the same thing every single day. Like, Matt Frazier isn't hitting, I mean, he's done now, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's not hitting like heavy Olympic lifts every day. You know what I mean? He's doing like heavy Olympic lifts on like a Monday. Then on like a Tuesday, his morning, he's doing like whatever. You know what I mean? But
Thursday's a big zone 2 day where it's
right.
not a lot of beat and wear and tear on the body,
Hmm.
so you
And
get,
they're doing swimming. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about just finding that cadence for you that's going to work with your schedule, and realize that like it's nothing to be ashamed of if you can't maintain a rhythm that you never set out for yourself to do. Like if you never believed that you could do 5 to 6 days a week at a high intensity, which a lot of people cannot do for various reasons, like you not hitting that is not a failure.
Yeah.
That's you being a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to adjust things when you fail. I think too, like a lot of times it's that fear of failure, like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this, so now I need to stop entirely. So no, you can make adjustments. Like I like to think of myself, and I know this is a weird thing, but I like to think of myself as like a science experiment. Like, cool, like this really worked for me. Okay, this didn't. Okay, this really worked for me. Okay, this also, what I mean? Like, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's not about, okay, this didn't work, I'm fucked. I feel terrible about myself. It's like, okay, this didn't work. Let me see what does.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try something else. Let me do more of this kind of workout. Let me try cycling. Let me whatever it is. Like you have just more than enough
Mm-hmm.
resources and things that you can do to try what's best for yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think so many people get caught in that, like, you get like the stages of change, pre-contemplation, contemplation, where you're thinking about, maybe integrating in a fitness routine or whatever endeavor
Hmm.
it could be. Then you get that, uh, oh, what's the very next one? So you got pre-contemplation, contemplation stage. Then you're in like the, you know, action stage or whatever. You're trying to
I
figure it
don't
out.
know.
There's some along the lines that everybody else listening, you probably know what the fuck I'm talking about, but whatever. So people get caught in that stage where it's
Mm,
like, ooh, well, what's the best one to do? Do I do the 5-day split? Do I do the 3-day split? Do I do whatever? It's like you're gonna find, and you just have to start, and then you're gonna naturally figure out what that routine is that looks best for you. And I also think
yeah.
it's important to know for people out there that just as much as the people who are like just trying to start to get a fitness routine, people who are already very heavily invested in their fitness routine and have it like dialed down, they go through these same types of thoughts as well. Like I was just talking to one of our fellow coaches, very high level athlete in his own right. And you always, I feel generally as a competitor, as an athlete, you only ever really look to the people who are perceived to be better than you,
Hmm.
if you're on that level. And so you got this uh, coworker of mine, Dustin, and
Shout out
man,
Dustin.
shout out Dustin. He's the shit. He's a monster in the gym, and he was I think competed at Granite Games and is a very good athlete, and he wants to see how far he can push it.
Mm.
Uh, and we were just having this conversation the other day of like, well, are you willing to make those like sacrifices? Because he already knows what he'd have to do to compete on that level. It's like adding in a number of more training sessions, getting in more volume, being even more dialed in on his, nutrition and sleep and recovery and
You
all
gotta
these
dedicate
things.
your life to that
And it's like
shit.
you're
Yeah.
doing, and so already at that level, he's trying to think of like, oh my gosh, well, what else do I need to add to this? How much more do I need to go through? It's like everyone is going through that like stage. There's no one person on this planet who is like just they found the perfect little thing. They're always making tweaks and adjustments, and they go on. They maybe did CrossFit for 6 fucking years, and then now they made a little swing change into like more bodybuilding, or they got into trail running because that ignited their passion. That's the another thing too is like, cool, you've been doing Orange Theory, you've been doing berries for 6 years. It's always fine to switch it up and find something that, again, relights that fire. Give
As an
your,
employee
you
of
know,
Orange Theory, it is not okay that you switch it up. You must remain present at all times.
yeah.
Just want to go on the record and state that.
And it's like, as long as you acknowledge like, okay, your goals might change, your body composition might change, but like if that brings that light back in and the joy to training again, because we've all gone through those stages where you're just like, man, I'm just
You just
grinding
don't want to
through.
go.
You
Yeah.
just don't want to go. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, well, cool. Like put something on the calendar, like start training for the 5K, start training for the
Yeah.
weightlifting competition, like do something that just reinvigorates you.
Hmm.
And that sometimes might be enough if you find yourself a little rut.
We got to do
You
a
know,
weightlifting competition at some point. I want to get
that'd
back
be
into it at some point. I've had a knee
that'd be
injury that's been
that'd be
bugging me, but
fun.
it'd
That'd
be
be
really fun.
fun.
Fun. You don't have to like lift your heaviest weights in the world, but it's a fun time. It's really cool. I
Well,
like it a lot.
and that's where I mean, so many people. I'm in that boat as well, where
Mm.
you're a little apprehensive to like want to sign up to something because, oh well, what if I don't compete or I don't hit that number? Or
Yeah.
I don't do as well as what I used to do. It's like we're all gonna have to come to that reality
Mm.
at some point. Like we're gonna hit a certain peak, and then from there. It's kind of trending down a little bit, and
Yeah.
your goals and your aspirations from health and fitness are going to change. But it's still good to put something out there that still challenges you in its own right, that makes you a little bit
Well,
nervous.
you're gonna
You
you're
know,
gonna have to buy a singlet for that, so you know.
Well, I suppose since you're doing the 50K, then
Yeah.
I'll have to do the.
Hey,
I'll have to do
Hell
the
yeah.
weightlifting competition, which I've always kind of wanted to do.
Yeah.
I've always kind of wanted to do.
No, you're gonna have a great. You have to you're gonna have a great time.
All right, so that's next year.
No, I mean, we could do that shit anytime, bro.
I'd want to I'd want to train for it though.
No,
I would.
You're gonna medal. It doesn't matter. Like, have you seen your lips? Anyways.
Oh, I don't think I'm medaling.
Oh my god, dude! It's a state tournament. It's a state, like it's like a state lifting
my
meet,
body
not
weight?
like a. Yeah.
I feel like there's got to be people that would be just head and shoulders above.
But I think weightlifting. I think you're thinking of this. You're thinking that the Minnesota weightlifting pool of athletes is a lot larger than it really is. So, that will do it for us today, y'all. And we appreciate you coming in. I thank you for listening to our topic about whatchamacallit, supplements, as well as guess some things that are helping with fuck, I don't even know what we talk about today.
Well, just overall health. Yeah. Supplements. Another great supplement into your life is a dog.
Oh, yes,
great,
Murphy,
friendly, cuddly, just requited love. They just always are right there, wanting to snuggle.
Murph, what are your thoughts for today's podcast?
He's really cute.
He's so fucking cute. Kory, last thoughts on what we talked about today with supplementation, as well as this ways to stay motivated and stay engaged, and just meeting people where they're at as far as their fitness journey goes.
Yeah, I just know that it's a process with everything, with your training, the eating methods that you start to engage in and that you maybe fall off on, the supplements that you start to take, and ones that work really well for you and ones that you're like, well, that didn't necessarily impact my body the way that I wanted it to. It's all a trial and error, and it just comes down to your experience with it. But in order to get that experience, you actually have to engage in it, and you have to take the supplements. You have to do it for a long period of time. You got to do the training. You got to get out there. You got to do your thing for an extended period of time and gain that real world knowledge, because you can just sift through page after page after page on the internet, figuring out what's the best program and what's the best this and what's the best supplement. You just get so caught up in the fucking weeds that you never actually start. And, so for whatever that it might be, just take the first step and then just continue to take steps after that. And you'll eventually find yourself on the right path. Way down the line, 5-6 years from now, if your consistency is on point, everything else will just naturally start to come with it.
Absolutely. We none of us started off knowing everything about this, and not that we do now, but
no.
We're
gonna look back in this in like 5 years too, and we're gonna be like, there'd be little things that I would change. The best trainers in the world who have been doing it for a lot longer than what you or I have, they're not set to just like one ideology or methodology or this is the thing, because science is always changing. There's new information to always be had and garnered and gathered and experienced with. That you're applying the best knowledge that you have right now in the situation that you currently find yourself in, and then 5 to 10 years from now, you find a little different caveat to go on, and then you're going to be just right on the right path.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, team, that's gonna be it for us. So here's the deal: if you like us on or subscribe on the YouTubes.
Nice.
Rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Only 5 stars. That's all we accept. If you do, appreciate you guys. Then spread the word, right? If you have some friends, family members that might be interested in some of our episodes, give us a shout. Let them know. Always appreciate that. You can find us we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And again, I will upload the video podcast for this one, so you can all see the dog. Honestly, he hasn't been doing too much. He's just been chilling on my lap, but really adorable. I'm jealous you get to look at his face, because I'm facing his head right now. Oh, hi, buddy. Oh, almost like you knew I was saying that. Hello.
I think we get some more social media content out here.
Yes.
Once we get those audio clip mics.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We want to do a little bit more active. I think doing some workouts together, really fun. Almost like some Average Bros Live stuff. That'd be a really good time.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that. You can follow us on Instagram at Average Bros Gym Podcast, on Twitter at Average Bros Gym Pod, AVG Bros Gym Pod, and then on email us. No one is emailing us, and by no one I mean people have, but not enough people are emailing us. Email us at Average Bros Gym Podcast at gmail.com. Ask us your questions. We had some questions were asked today via that stuff, so we're always happy to help real people find real solutions to what they're looking for, right? It's not just hey, let's pick a random answer on the internet, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We love that. So, and people that we know and care about. Murph, are you okay, buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're a good boy. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your day. We will hear from all of you very soon. Comment on the YouTubes, comment on the Spotify's, all the fun things. So take care, y'all. Get yourself a dog or a cat or a pet in general. Hi, Murphy.
Always love to
And we'll see you soon. I know I'm really tightly.